Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Killin' Smallz podcast. We have a first tonight, the first time we've ever had two guests on at the same time. And I'm really excited about this because, while I've had the chance to be doing the Killin' Smallz podcast for the last year and a half, 2 years, I've listened to other podcasts and I've gotten involved with the Painted Lines, and I really enjoy all the guys over there. And it's been a lot of fun. And one of my favorite podcasts is the Feed to Embiid, hosted by these two handsome gentlemen, Austin Carell and Brock Landis. Guys, welcome to the Kill Me Smallz podcast.
Mike, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. We're always it's always thrilling when you get a DM from somebody and you're like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? And it's like if you think that highly of me, sure. I mean, sure, great.
Actually, it's Brock that I think very highly of.
That's what most
That's how it's going to go tonight. You see, that's how it's going to go tonight.
I appreciate you having me on, Mike. You have a laundry list of brilliant guests. I watch your podcast too, so now I'm not just a viewer of the pod, I'm a friend of the pod, and I'm glad I can say that, Mike. You're brilliant at what you do, and as crazy as this sounds, I think you have a fantastic voice for what you do too.
I would co-sign that.
Listen, I don't know if it's the mic quality, if it's how you edit, or if it's just naturally your voice. I think it's the latter, but you definitely have a voice for what you do.
See, now that's how to come onto a podcast, Austin. You see, now you got to pay attention to that part.
This guy's on WIP, so he's already done more than I can say.
I'll have my secretary get back to you on that one.
This is where I make that face for a radio joke, right?
Hey, exactly.
Well, guys, let's get into it. The Sixers have been a lot of fun, and we talked about this before we started the show, but Doc Rivers and Darryl Morey have basically taken the playbook of what the fans needed to hear and wanted to see based on the last, about 18 months of Sixerland, and have basically said and done everything right. And, the first thing that Darryl Morey had to do was get Al Horford out of here, which is the first thing that he did. The next thing that they needed to do was create balance for the team and, get more shooting, which they've done with Seth Curry and soon to be announced Danny Green. One of the most underrated things that nobody's talking about, which is odd, is their draft pick, Tyrese Maxey, who I think is going to be pretty good. And we'll talk about that as well. What I'm wondering from you guys is this team that it is more balanced? Does balanced equal better? Austin, what do you think?
Does balance equal better?
They are balanced, but are they good?
I think in some ways they are less talented. As like on paper, I think they are probably a less talented ball club. But what I will say is that I think in those deficiencies, they definitely fit a lot better together. And I think that's going to have the effect of unlocking some things that they didn't know they had in each other. So I think as a whole, they are a far better team. I think the chemistry is going to be better. The general morale of the best players, and then by how team building properties work, by the rest of the roster. I think that overall they're going to be in better moods, better team overall for sure.
So, Brock, I'm going to say goes to you. I mean, when you think about, Austin made the comment about talent, and look, I'm going to be honest. I was one of the ones that fell for the offseason last year. I talked myself into it. That's a lot of talent. No one's going to score on that defense. They're going to hold teams to 70 points a night. It didn't work out that way. What do you think now that it's a less quote unquote talented team in terms of name recognition and roster construction, but maybe a more balanced team? And is it better in your opinion?
Absolutely. I think balance equals better. And most people call me an optimist, so I'm going to die on this hill. But the reason I say this is because, A, the team wins in addition by subtraction. The coaching staff overhaul was unparalleled, right? So you have Brett Brown, who coaches for 7 seasons. And in those 7 seasons, near a decade, the Sixers led the NBA. They were top 5 in the NBA. All 7 seasons in 2 very specific things. 3-pointers attempted very early in the shot clock, That's 22 to 18 seconds. And opposing pick and roll ball handler points surrendered. So defensively, for 7 seasons, we saw Philadelphia throw different schemes at opposing pick and roll ball handlers, and yet they surrendered a top 5 mark there for 7 straight years. Now, offensively, if your team is coming down and shooting the basketball very early in the shot clock, if you have 3 guys past half court and the first pass and catch is a green light to shoot, then that means you're not getting set offensively. It leads to poor transition defense. Guys don't get set on defense either. And it's a whole whirlwind of problems. So you win in addition by subtraction and just adding a guy like Doc Rivers. That's a brilliant voice to have in the locker room and also a brilliant coach. I mean, he's had a pretty bad reputation for blown leads, but at the same time, this is a guy that's been coaching for 2+ decades. I mean, Mike, you would know better than I would because I'm only 20, but if you hold a job position for 20+ years, you're doing your job pretty good. Would you agree?
Austin, is he coming at me with an age joke here? Is that what's going on here?
Brock texted me before the show and was like, is Mike 70 or 50?
Yeah.
No, Brock, you make a good point. And, what I would, if you asked me during the Brett Brown era, of the many things that drove me crazy, it was defending the pick and roll and not executing the pick and roll. So you make some really, really good points there. My question back to you is, what do you think this will, like, if this shooting and this ability to, as Doc said, there's going to be a lot more pick and roll, and Embiid and Simmons are going to be a big part of it. If this unlocks what Simmons and Embiid can be together, then it's all worth it. Do you both think that will be accomplished based on this roster construction?
I would say, of course. So if you subtract Al Horford and Josh Richardson from the 2019 season, where Philadelphia had the 4th most catch-and-shoot threes, and you add Seth Curry and Danny Green, who combined had 200 catch-and-shoot threes, the Sixers would have had the most catch-and-shoot threes in the NBA and the second best three-point percentage. If you pair that with a player like Ben Simmons, who is 4th in the NBA in three-pointers assisted, then you're getting plenty of offense you didn't have a season prior. My thing with Ben Simmons is that he doesn't have to shoot the 3 ball. If he can add the threat or the illusion of him having a jump shot, it makes things easier for everybody offensively. But for Ben, if he can just get his free throw attempt rate up a little higher, get downhill, get fouled, and get that free throw percentage up past 65, maybe to 70%, you're looking at 12 free throws a game. If he makes 6 of them right now this season, that's fair production. If you're looking at Ben going to the line 12 times a game and Joe going to the line 12 times a game, that's at least 24 points at the line. And other clubs, they can't match that. So I think if you pair Joel and Ben with the shooting they have now, it's only going to benefit their offense. If you look towards the 2017 season, when you have guys like J.J. Redick, Dario Covington, moving three-point shooters, that was Ben and Joe's best offensive season to date. Now you get a player in Seth Curry who can do more, I'd argue, than all 3 of the players I named. Since 2016, he's led the NBA for 3 seasons in field goal percentage in the pick and roll as a ball handler. He's had one of the highest percentages driving to the basket and converting field goals there. So the fact that you can use him in the pick and roll, the fact that he's a threat driving, and the fact that he's literally the best shooter in the NBA statistically since 2016, I think it's only going to do wonders for this offense. It's going to create less congestion and more room to work for Ben and Joe.
Hey, Austin, this guy does his homework. No wonder you added him to the podcast. Nice job on that, Brock.
Thank you.
Austin, back to you. If we look back at, as Brock said, that 2018 team, which was, really, really fun to watch, especially those last 16 games. And when Embiid and Simmons were surrounded by Redick and Bellinelli and Ilyasova. And it was fun and it did work until what? Till we got to the playoffs and Redick was exposed and Bellinelli was exposed because they couldn't guard anybody. Is there enough defense on this team to go along with the shooting that they may not have to worry about those same things that they had to worry about in 2018?
So I would say they're definitely a worse defensive team, is what I would say.
Worse than 2018 or worse, definitely worse than 2019, you mean? Or do you mean worse than they were 2 years ago?
No, I meant like going back to like the comparing the team that blew everybody's like wildest expectations out of the water. The 2017-18 team. They had Covington. As much as Covington's a very meh like overall player, like offensively and then defensively, he's a very good team defender. He's
terrible on the ball though.
Yeah, no, horrible,
very overrated on the ball.
Like, horrible. Frustrate, like very frustratingly horrible, actually.
Yeah.
Covington's a very good anticipatory defender, very good team defender, very good in passing lanes and that kind of thing, and that unlocks so much of what you need out of Ben Simmons and JJ Redick. So I think obviously you're lacking in that sense. I do think that with Bellinelli and Redick, they were very challenged laterally, and in terms of like keeping them having the gravity to keep themselves in front of quicker guards. I think Danny Green is he's a more reputed defender.
Well, 3 years ago he was. We don't know what we're getting this year. When you look back at what he did in the bubble, he struggled.
No, for sure. I think Seth Curry is younger, and I think by default probably more. Even if he's not a good defender, he's more capable of holding his own than a JJ or a Bellinelli might be. I also think that Shake Milton, if he's bulked up at all, he's very young, he's athletic, he can hold his own. But I do think that this team is just like a little. They're better. I'd say they're better than the 2017-18 team. But the thing for me that is concerning is that we still haven't addressed the fact that, like, hey, as things stand now, your best like 3-level scorer to create it that can create his own shot in a playoff scenario is going to be Tobias Harris. How far?
Tyrese Maxey.
Well, I don't. Yes,
maybe sure. Right.
But a lot has to go right for Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah,
a lot has to go right. As of right now, you're going to put the ball in Tobias Harris's hands. That's
my next question for you. Let me interrupt you and jump ahead. Down by 2 with 20 seconds left. You're giving the ball to Tobias right now?
Well, in the context of 20 seconds, no, I'm giving it to Joel Embiid. But
that might be a mistake too.
No, it might be. But I think in the last,
unless he gets better at passing out of the double team,
right? Exactly. But I think in the last 5 minutes of a playoff game, when you're looking to ride somebody down the stretch, that was Jimmy Butler. I guess it has to be Tobias Harris. I mean, that's your as the perimeter creator. So going back to the original question, they're better. There are still some shortcomings that I think they have to address. But I think defensively, they if you're comparing across Saric, Covington, and Redick, I think they're a better defensive team in their peripheral pieces.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me fire another question at you two about this year's team and what we're hearing. Brock, let me go to you first on this.
Here we go.
No. This one's not bad. We are, a couple of weeks from the season starting. Give me your odds that there will be a trade before the season, and give me your odds that this is the team that we will be looking at All-Star break.
Before the season, I think very unlikely. I think the team wants to get everybody acclimated. Doc Rivers spoke today at practice and said one of the biggest and only concerns with this season, given all of the circumstances with COVID, is that it's tough to get players caught up to speed. You can't really implement certain things or implement a game plan or a system if you don't have everybody there, if you have restrictions. So I don't foresee any trades before the season. I think the team wants to get comfortable. Another reason I say that is because Daryl Morey spoke in his introductory press conference and said, we're not going to force trades upon our team. We're going to evaluate, see what we need to address, and then go from there. I think.
Well, now I am going to play the age card on you, Brock, because I've been around long enough to hear that from a guy like Daryl Morey on Tuesday and then see a monster trade on Wednesday. That happens a lot.
Yep.
Also, you see anything happening?
Brock is my young son. I'm grooming him to do better than that. I will say,
don't believe anybody. Don't believe what they say to the media. Nobody. They all lie. That's the beauty.
Can't trust anybody, Brock. So
what was the tweet? Don't trust no one.
Can't trust nobody or whatever.
Can't trust
Can't
nobody,
no one.
Markel.
Markel Fultz classic right there.
Yeah.
I would say I put it at about plus 6,000 odds for them making a trade heading into the season. I just think the roster's set for now. And I think also Daryl Morey said after the draft, and I think a little more recently, like, hey, we don't want to, fire all of our bullets right now. We want to see what we have, what we don't have. Maybe something surprise us in camp, and there are needs that we thought were needs that aren't actually needs. So I think they're going to wait for that to develop a little bit. Dig into the data, see what they thought they knew, but ended up not knowing. See what they ended up having that they didn't know they had, and then use their assets later. So I would say the odds are perhaps overwhelmingly, if not guaranteed, to be that the roster is different deadline, but not heading into training camp or not heading into opening night.
Well, let's get into roster construction, but let's take a very, very quick break. I want to talk about a charity that's near and dear to my heart, and it's called Small Miracles. Many people know this, but my daughter had a brain tumor, and she underwent chemotherapy for about 18 months. And one of the things that she noticed when she was at Children's Hospital was that everybody caters to the little kids, but the teenagers are kind of left out. I mean, the people bring little gifts for the little kids and puzzles and games, and the teenagers just sit there, take their chemotherapy, and kind of withdraw. And my daughter, while still going through the fight, it's an inoperable tumor. She's doing great. She's been off therapy for about 2 years now. Started a charity last year called Small Miracles, where she collected over $15,000 and bought gifts and gift cards and things to do for the teens that were at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia undergoing chemotherapy. And we now have a 501c3, and we're hoping to top that $15,000 this year. You can Venmo at small_miracles. Any amount would be appreciated, from 50 cents to $1 million. We'll take it. There's also a website, smallmiracle.inc.org. And you'll be able to go on the website, read all about her story, and see what you can donate. Again, that's Small Miracles at Venmo. It's at small_miracles. So check it out. So let's get back to the podcast, guys. Thank you for indulging me there for a moment. Getting back to Daryl Morey. I am to the point now where I really just think he's a master at being everything that Sam Hinkie wasn't. It's almost like he read all the press clippings of, this is what Philadelphia loved about Sam Hinkie, but this is what the media and the national media hated about Sam Hinkie, and he's trying to blend it, and he has done a masterful job so far. His honeymoon period right now is beyond reproach. The question that I have is he full of shit? And what I mean by that is
wow.
when we go through person by person, Furkan, he's going to be amazing for us. Shake Milton, the league's not ready for Shake Milton. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. I mean, everybody, he's got something amazing to say about it. What do you think is true, Austin? And what do you think we're not hearing the real story about?
Wow.
I'm sorry, you heard a pizza delivery in the background, by the way.
The way you opened that line, I was like, give us a call, 610-632. What I would say is I saw that quote today about Furkan, and I was grinning to myself because I just don't see an avenue for him to be playing significant minutes on a night-to-night basis.
Well, we're at that time, right, where Furkan worked on his body, and Justin Anderson knows how to shoot. And
I worked on my body too. I gained 25 pounds in quarantine. I mean, I worked on my body too in the wrong direction.
I know it's all muscle though, so that's okay.
Yeah, exactly right. Sit-ups and burpees, all that stuff. I will say this: one piece of information that has been making its rounds around circles is that Doc is legitimately very high on Shake Milton.
Put up 38 against him.
Right. And you would hope that maybe the guy isn't making his decisions based off of one performance against him. But Doc has been a very big advocate for Shake. And, there may have even been trade packages that had involved him. That Doc was like, "Whoa, let's slow down here. I'm not ready to trade him quite yet." I don't know that what those packages entailed or who it was returning for, but
would you trade Jake and Simmons for Harden?
But I think I might have to do that.
Yeah, I'll bet you that was on the table, something like that for sure.
Yeah. But they've sort of latched on to Shake, and I think right now he has a very favorable opportunity to play a significant role.
Well, I think he's emerged as a really damn good shooter that could do other things, unlike a lot of these other guys that, I'll tell you what, one of the things, Brock, that's really blown me away, and I'm getting away from my question because I want to get back to it. But when you look at the contract that Davis Bertans got, and you look at the contract, what's my guy's name on the Nets, the shooter?
Joe Harris.
What's that?
Joe Harris.
Joe Harris. Look at what Seth Curry's being paid, $8 million bucks a year. That's the biggest bargain in the NBA right now when you look at shooters. But getting off that subject, Brock, what do you think when you hear what Darryl and Doc are saying? That do you think they're all in love with all these players as well? They haven't gotten on the court yet, but do you think that secretly they're thinking, oh, we got to get Tobias out of here, or somebody? What do you think is true? What is fact and what is fiction in your opinion?
Okay, well, I think they're both masters of what they do. And a lot of people have told me, and in life specifically, to fake it until you make it. I don't know if that's applicable for Doc and Darryl, but what I will say about Darryl is that he has a very calming presence. The way he talks, he doesn't talk like he knows more than who he's talking to. It's almost like he's talking to you as if he's your friend. It's a very stoic tone, and he just sounds extremely smart without actually having to filibuster or say things that require him actually sounding smart. Darryl's doing all the right things. You make a brilliant point. He's doing Ask Me Anythings on Reddit. He's tweeting at his fans, tweeting out highlight reels.
He's a PR genius.
He's a PR genius.
For this city especially.
Oh,
for this city. That's exactly right. Now, Doc Rivers talked about the Philadelphia coaching job, and he said the one common denominator that separated Philadelphia from every other team was their duo, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. The reason why he passed up on the Houston job under Daryl Morey was because he wanted to coach those two. He sees the core in Philadelphia. His son, Austin Rivers, in an interview, reiterated that this duo is really what brought Doc Rivers to Philadelphia. Daryl Morey, too. I think they both have great faith, and they think the potential is really high for Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. On the Reddit thread, Daryl Morey even said that the trajectory of Ben and Joe's career would have them as Hall of Famers if they continue at this rate, at this age, and if they're in the right system. I think both of them, for the time being, are untouchable. Tobias, I think they want to give him an opportunity to play under Doc again. Had he been utilized correctly under Brett Brown, maybe you unlock him a little more, get him to make decisions a little faster, not stall out, get that three-point attempt rate up. But the thing about Tobias that I said to Austin the other day was that in a vacuum, Tobias Harris is an all-star. He's a superstar. Compared to the other players that are getting paid what he's paid, there's 11 players that have a similar annual salary. He's a superstar in a vacuum.
I don't think
the problem
is he a superstar in the stat book, or is he a superstar when you watch the game? Because if he were on a team that didn't have Simmons or Embiid, like say the Detroit Pistons or the LA Clippers, where he came from, and he had to be the man every night, he's going to frustrate you a little bit because his shooting percentage isn't always great. Some days it's amazing, some days it's horrible. It's not perfect, and he does enough with the ball in his hands that'll drive you nuts. But what can he be, in your opinion, with Embiid and Simmons? That is something that could be that third all-star. Is it possible?
I have high expectations for Tobias, but to conclude my point, I said to Austin the other day when looking at the salary situation for the next couple of seasons, when you look at it on paper, that Tobias Harris is getting paid more annually than Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid for the next couple of seasons, it makes you sick to your stomach. But at the same time, I think you've got a guy in Tobias that's a 50% from the field, 40% from three, 90% from the line at best guy. He's never going to hit that 50, 40, 90 mark, but he's going to hover around there every single year. If you can get Tobias to give you 20 to 24 points a night as a complementing piece, I have no complaints. The reason why I disagree with Austin from an earlier point about him being the closer is that you've got Seth Curry, who in his career has never shot below 42% from three, I believe, in the fourth quarter. You've got Danny Green, who, although his reputation has taken a hit too in the fourth quarter, is historically a very good fourth quarter three-point shooter. You can ride Tobias, but I don't think Tobias is that go-to guy. The reason why I think they're better defensively and offensively is because they have this guy like Tobias on their team, right? If you have Ben Simmons, who's 6'10", that plays the point guard, that's a positional mismatch for the other team, both offensively and defensively. So let's say they're playing defense against the team, it's 30 seconds left, and you got to strap up. If you don't want your guards exploited by a guard like Kyrie Irving or a guard like James Harden, you can put Ben on that guard, right? And then you've got a guy like Tobias Harris who can play 3 and 4. You've got Joe, who's the anchor at 5. Maybe you bring Dwight in even and put 2 twin towers out there at the 4 and 5. You can have Tobias.
All right, now you're off the rails. Now you're off the rails.
The Horford experiment works so well.
I think
you know what? Bring in Tony Bradley at the 3 and let's lock it all up.
Well, you guys saw New Orleans apparently said that they have plans for Zion to play the 3 this upcoming.
I did see that.
So I just think the multi-positional flexibility that Tobias offers is great. I think he's a really good complementary player. And like I said, statistically in a vacuum, sure, he's a superstar. But on paper, it's tough to see that annually he's the highest paid player in the Sixers.
Is it possible they can teach him to just do layups, dunks, and three-pointers and get rid of his mid-range? That would be nice, in my opinion.
That's another reason why, Mike, I think addition by subtraction will help this team. Because if you think about a team like Milwaukee or a team like the Lakers or Miami, they have roles, right? It's Giannis Antetokounmpo handling. It's Jimmy Butler handling. It's LeBron handling. When they penetrate and collapse the defense, they have to know where to look to find their shooters. And they have stationary shooters. They have guys that say, okay, I'm predominantly a corner shooter. I'm not going to hover around the wing. I'm sticking in this corner until I catch that pass, and then I shoot it if it's there. The problem with Brett Brown and the Sixers in recent years, in my opinion, is you've got 4 guys out there that have no idea what their role is. So if Ben penetrates and gets deep into the defense right on the basket and he needs that corner kick, you can't have a guy like Matisse Thybulle playing in between the wing and the corner and he doesn't know when to shoot it, or Tobias gets the ball at the top of the key and he doesn't know if he should be initiating a pick and roll or driving and getting downhill or shooting it. So I think if you have determined roles, that's also going to help things out a lot more. And I think
I think you make a great point there. And you know, honestly, I think
which one?
I think his last point about role definition, I think he made many great points, Austin, but I think his last point about role definition is really important because that was one of the things that drove me nuts about Brett Brown. You know, obviously we all know that we wanted him to tell Simmons to shoot. And, you know, when Simmons didn't shoot, we wanted him to have some sort of retribution or what have you, but some sort of role definition for each of these guys. Well, Tobias, we just want you to shoot threes, layups, and dunks. Matisse, we want you to shoot that corner 3 as soon as whatever it is, if they can fall into those roles, I think that's going to be Doc's biggest addition at this point.
What I would say is, what I would say to that is that why put Tobias Harris in a box of, you know, like threes, layups, dunks? Those are the only 3. Those are your only 3 jobs.
Because we saw what his mid-range did last year, and it wasn't great.
Well, right, but my point is the coach's job should be figuring out what's the role that maximizes this guy's game the best. That's sort of, you know, that's sort of the balancing act of coaching is, how do I maximize this player the best and in a way that contributes to us winning. Right. If Tobias Harris's, you know, mid-range game, if him attacking a closeout off the dribble and pulling up for a 16-foot jump shot is contributing to winning, then, you know, by all means, like, you know, get to where your sweet spot is. I do think that you need to, just as Doug Peterson needs to like clean up the game and the game plan.
Oh, now you've done it. Now you've opened up.
Just as like Doug Peterson needs.
Are we going to go Jimmy Butler versus DK Metcalf for the rest of the podcast?
Oh man. 610-632-0.
Oh, good God.
So I like just as like Doug needs to like clean up and condense and simplify the game for Carson, you need to, Tobias like taking 6 or 7 aimless dribbles outside with shot clock running down isn't helping anybody.
Yeah.
You want to get him downhill with the ball in his hand, the pick and roll, to feel like, okay, I have an opportunity to get to my spot where I'm comfortable and make this play. You don't want to limit him and say like you can't you have a house arrest anklet around you if you get past this point. Like
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm talking more about, the norm as opposed to, locking him in a box. This is our preference, but if this is open, hit it. But we don't want you to do it 15 times a game, that kind of thing. Hey guys, let me get you out of here on this because both of you did a great job, a really, really great job prepping for the draft. And you know these guys a lot better than I do. Tyrese Maxey and Isaiah Joe. One of you take Tyrese, the other one take Joe. What can we expect from these guys this year? Austin, tell me about Maxey.
So Tyrese Maxey, I think, and I'm glad that someone finally asked me about this. I think that Tyrese Maxey has a chance to be that guy in this draft that you look back and you're like, yeah, he's the one that we.
I mean, is he the Donovan Mitchell of this draft? I mean, the guy that slipped down that low and everyone wondered why.
I don't really know who he compares to per se, but I do think that he has this confidence and this exuberance around him and this drive to be great. And I think, he has a very high motor, really like active defensive player, can create off the dribble, needs to maybe hone in on his shooting mechanics. I think he has a chance to be, I think he has a chance to be one of the guys in this draft that you look back on and you're like, okay, that's the guy that we maybe missed on. And I think he has a chance if you really put, invest real equity into his growth and development, he may be able to be that Markelle Fultz type that you missed on. This is your redemption. This is your second chance at life.
Brock, is Joe going to contribute this year?
I think so, and the Sixers are paying him to do so. They guaranteed 2 years.
They gave him a Scott Kingery contract almost,
they did,
right?
They did, and this is a second.
See what I did there?
Oh yeah,
another poorly run organization, but we'll save that for another podcast.
Absolutely.
But nonetheless, you've guaranteed 2 years of a second round picks contract. That to me indicates that you anticipate he's going to have some sort of role in this team. And for a team that's loaded with backcourt players and wings, I think Isaiah Joe has a chance to float to the top of that list. I mean, this is a player that took 10.6 attempts from beyond the arc in 2019 and 8 in 2018. In both of those seasons, he had the most and second most threes made in the SEC. He's a guy that has limitless range, and he's a fearless shooter. He has no conscience from beyond the arc. He'll pull from any distance, and he's confident in his shot every time. For a team that really lacked that shot creator from three, a player that's fearless, that's willing to shoot the ball when the game's on the line or when the team needs a bucket, Isaiah Joe could be that guy. He's 6'5", he's got tight handles, and what I really like about him is that it doesn't matter if he's moving, if he's dribbling, if he's catching and shooting, if he's spotting up. His stroke is the same every time. He led the SEC.
Do you have a comp for him?
I honestly really don't, because
I like Mikal Pietrus for him. That was one that I thought of. Maybe better shooter.
I think he's the type of guy that defines the 4-point range in the NBA. I mean, he legitimately has that range. And of guys that are doing that right now, Trae Young, Bertans, Joe Harris, maybe, there really isn't a guy that's 6'5" like Joe with the handles and arsenal of moves that he has. So you guys already know I told you I'm very optimistic, and my hopes are high for Isaiah Joe.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun. Guys, tell everybody where they can follow you on Twitter. Tell everybody where they can listen to the podcast.
Go ahead, Austin.
You can follow me on Twitter at NBA Krell. I cover the Sixers for the Painted Lines. I'm also a columnist for Last Out Media. Follow our podcast, The Feed to Embiid, on Twitter. We always post our most recent episodes, and we let you know a couple hours in advance of our next show. You can subscribe on Apple Pods by the same name of The Feed to Embiid, and on YouTube, subscribe to the Painted Lines. We're also there.
I'm Landis Brock on Twitter, on YouTube, Brock Landis. I post on my account and the Painted Lines too. I do a lot of multimedia content. So if you want to have basketball discussions and you want somebody to tell it to you straight, I'm the guy to come to.
No doubt. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for joining the Killin' Me Smallz podcast. You can listen to the Killin' Me Smallz podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, or you can go on YouTube and watch our handsome faces on the Painted Lines, under the Painted Lines, where we have all kinds of great content that includes tons and tons of NBA stuff, NFL stuff, as well as things about culture and just a lot of great content. So, well, guys, thanks again for joining.